a nurse working in a psychiatric hospital. So that we don't confuse faith and other issues. Because I understand and I've seen a lot of people who confuse a struggle in human life where we need to rely on God and where we are suffering over medical conditions which not necessarily need faith but need you to go and see Dr. Lingolo. So if you're not getting me, there are people who have substituted going to see a doctor because they think what they are going through is a very funny, so God and faith is going to help. But only to find that if you have visited a doctor, they will treat you of your condition and you are well. Maybe let me make an example because it's not sinking in. There are people who think that having problems in life that are depressing you is equal to you having faith. Can't you just need to go and see a psychologist who's going to give you a coping mechanisms in life? So before we go on our sermon, let's be clear that we are dealing with faith issues here, not issues that you are suffering because you are failing to go and see a doctor. Maybe it's not happening in Krugersdorp by the reaction I'm getting from your faces. But we have people, maybe let me even extend it and say we have Adventists who think that as long as I'm praying and have faith in God, then somehow all the depression and the stress that I'm going through will disappear. And we don't just believe that, we even prescribe it to others as equal to what? Faith. I'm here to tell us God has given us brains for us to also go and seek those who have been trained to deal with issues that are stressing us. Say this is important. Then we see people, some people go through, apologies if I'm going to touch sensitive issues here, but some people go through rape and then they say, no, it was the will of God, so I'm going to harbor all the anger that comes because of the issues that come across or come along with being sexually assaulted. And the saints, when you come and tell your story, all they say is, what will pray with you? No, saints, when someone has been brutally abused, refer them to people who can help them mentally. Let's separate medical conditions and faith. Are we together? So that you don't misquote me when we leave here and say the pastor said, I still fully believe in a God that can heal all diseases. I still believe, including those that are depressing us. But we should not then just leave everything and say, it's God's will, I'll have faith in this one, when you just need to go and see a doctor. Why don't you say the same thing when someone is diabetes? No, have faith, you'll be fine. Why don't you say the same thing when someone is suffering of high blood pressure? No, don't take the medication, just have faith, you'll be okay. But when it comes to mental issues, we are quick to say have faith. I'm trying to break the stigma of mental illness if you're not picking this up. In 2010, I moved to Gauteng with my sister. She's older than me, probably watching right now. We're moving from KZN to come and start in Gauteng, begin our training as nurses. I still remember the day our big brother, who had stayed in Pretoria for years before we came here, showing us around the city of Pretoria. And even remember him taking us to the church, showing us this is where you guys can worship, recommending this church is the right one to go to. Then he left for Cape Town, just in that week. Now the only person I knew in the entire city was who? My sister. Then one day we were like, my sister, let's go out to go and buy food. Then we walked downtown Pretoria, and then we bought food. The challenge began when we had to go back home. if you know Pretoria, we stayed around Beggars Park. This is up in town. There's a park called Beggars Park. We were not far from the park. I don't know how many times we went around Beggars Park trying to look for our flat. And someone might be asking, where was GPS and all that? The year is 2010, we are from home, from a trip. We don't have all these nice gadgets that can provide directions. For some reason, we found our way home after a long and tiresome circling of Beggars Park. Maybe it was our Jericho as well. But the story does not end there. When we went to church, remember, who do I know in Pretoria? Just my sister. And who does she know in Pretoria? Just me. Whether we are at school, we study together. In most cases, we will go to practicals in the same hospital. Come Sabbath, we are in the same church. Even when we have to eat, whether it's at church or at school, we are found where? Together. I remember there was a rumor, even in church, that those two are married. I laugh when I hear that today. I even remember that, you know, in church when there's young blood coming in, the boys will try and have their luck with the new lady in church. I started receiving some favors from the young men from church. Only later on I knew that I only received the favors because they knew that for them to reach my sister, they had to keep me what? Happy. But we still remain friends till today with those guys. We are going somewhere with this story. Whenever you saw my sister, you are rest assured I'm in the neighborhood. Now, nothing could separate us. Even though today, it looks like I've been divorced by my sister and my daughter has replaced me. Whenever she calls, she no longer asks for me, but she asks for my daughter. But I still love her, it's fine. But the message I'm trying to bring across is that me and my sister, for a long time in Pretoria, would never be separated by anyone or anything. Faith, as we will shortly see in this passage, is never far away from the fire. But let's be clear from the word go. We are not here talking about God putting us to a test. Like Abraham's faith was tested, we know. Here we are addressing what it means to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. When we say forever Yena choosing him, no matter what, we are indirectly saying we want to be disciples of Jesus Christ. Now let's see what happens to disciples of Jesus Christ from the Old Testament perspective. In chapter 2 of the book of Daniel, there is that dream that we all know about. The king has a dream, he forgets the dream. God, or then he tries and calls all those who are able to what? To tell him the dream. But they fail, because he says to them, I had a dream, but I no longer know what the dream was. You guys are supposed to tell me the dream and then tell me the interpretation thereof. They respond to the king and say, no one is able to do this duty or this task that you're asking us to do. First tell us the what? The dream, then we can give the interpretation. But then, chapter 3, the summary of chapter 2, ends up with Daniel giving the interpretation. We know the story. But then I like how things happen in chapter 2. God gives another person the dream that the king had. And then the person tells the dream to the king. And the king is convinced this was the dream that I had. And then Daniel provides the interpretation. If there is not power, I don't know what power is. We worship a God who is able not just to run affairs that we see in day-to-day life, but he even has control of what we can dream. If he managed to give a dream to the king and then make him to forget the dream, I think if I was Nebuchadnezzar, I was going to pause right there and say, there is a God who is way powerful than the stuff I have in Babylon. But the king missed the lesson in chapter 2. And then he decides to defy the dream that God has given in chapter 2. He gives his own statue in chapter 3. And then he says, everyone must what? Come and worship this image. It was an image of gold, but in chapter 2, the king was just the head of gold, if you remember. But I was fascinated when I imagined all the Israelites that were in Babylon. They were taken as captives. Now they are asked to bow before this statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has enacted here. But I asked myself, how did the Israelites end up in a situation where they are forced to worship this image in a foreign land? Let me remind you what had happened. If you read your book, your Bible, Jeremiah chapter 25, from verses 4 and 5, it reads, and the Lord has sent to you, talking to the Israelites, before they went to exile. And the Lord has sent to you all his servants, the prophets, rising early and sending them, but you have not listened nor inclined your ear to hear. They say, repent now everyone of his evil way and his evil doings, and dwell in the land that the Lord has given you and your fathers forever and ever. Verse 6. Do not go after other gods to serve them and worship them, and do not provoke me to anger with the works of your hands, and I will not harm you. Jeremiah chapter 2 and verses 13 also states, for my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewn them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. And I submit to us this evening, be careful of what you pray for, because when God gives it to you, maybe you might not be able to handle it. Israel had God as their leader, but while they were in their land, they decided to go and look after and seek after other gods against instructions from God. God sends prophets to them. What you are doing is not correct. What you are doing is not right. I am the God who deserves worship. But Israel did not listen. Now God says, have what you are asking for, but you are not going to have it in my land. He takes them where? To Babylon. Obviously, Nebuchadnezzar taking them. Now, they are in a foreign land. Now they are forced to worship other idols, other gods, but they were worshipping them in Israel. They're still not getting it. God understands and knows why he says we should not do 1, 2, 3. But when we continue and insist on doing those things, then God decides, I'm going to give you what you're asking for. But don't cry after me when pain follows what you have asked for. Young people, when adults are talking to us and they tell us, I've gone through what you are going through, it is a way that leads to distraction. And we think we know it all. And then we suffer in the end. And then we cry. But the adults, they want us, don't do 1, 2, 3, my child. God, when we are stubborn, sometimes gives you what you are asking for. But that's not where we are this evening. Then back to the statue. Nebuchadnezzar is forcing everyone to worship the golden image in defiance of prophecy of chapter 2, which identifies him only as the head of gold. The motivation for worship, that's where we are beginning. This is where you must take the lessons now. Motivation for worship in chapter 3 of this image of gold is fear. Why am I saying this? Nebuchadnezzar says to his adherents, if you don't worship my image, what am I going to do to you? I'll kill you. In a nutshell, that's what he says. Because he says, whoever does not worship here is going to be thrown in a lake of fire. Now I ask myself, but why do we worship God? Nebuchadnezzar seems to be losing and missing the plot here. He has lost the plot on why we worship God. Just like some of us today, though. We believe that if we don't worship God, then God kills us. If we do not do as He says, then we suffer. If we do not worship Him, then there is hell waiting for us. Am I talking to people who have been brought to the Adventist church because they were scared about the beast of Revelation and the dragons and the image of the beast that happens in Revelation, and then we calculated 1 plus 1. If I don't follow this God, then I'm going to die of these beasts. And I'm here to say, we don't worship people. We don't worship God because of what happens when we don't follow Him. Still not sinking in. We even preach it, elders, in our baptismal classes. We scare these little members coming to the church about all the beasts and hell and the drug poor souls. They think, no, I have no option here. If I don't follow these people, then I'm going to hell. But when I read my Bible, when you read the book of Luke, chapter 15, of the prodigal son, do you think the prodigal son was going to go home if he knew that when I go home, I'm going to face a father that is able to kill me? But why do we scare people into worshiping God? If you are scared into worshiping this God, I'm here to tell you, He loves you so much, He died for you. There is no need for you to be scared of Him, but He needs you to love Him. Maybe we're dealing with church issues. The saints are saying, Pastor, we don't do that here. Let's take it to our homes. Some of our homes, fathers, when the kids hear your car coming back from work, they shrink and run to the bedroom. No amen is coming. Now it's personal. Some wives don't have a say in your home because they know daddy or the husband is a tyrant in this home. There is no love, there is just fear. Kids are even afraid of asking you for money. They suffer at school and you can't even see it. They are scared to talk to you. Ruling through fear. I don't want to be centered. Let's move on. Let's move on. But fear is not a sustainable motivation to worship God. That's what I'm trying to say. Fear is not a motivation to rule and run our homes. Maybe if at work we run around and we are scared of the bosses, but at home and at church, I think let's use love, saints. My Bible says, for God so loved the world that He what? He gave. Saints, maybe I'm not too personal, but maybe it will save someone. Some of us, our kids are going through drugs right now, but they can't talk to us because they are scared of us. Let me not say us. We are scared of you as our parents because we can't talk to you. We are suffering. We close ourselves in our bedrooms and we are thinking, no, this one is just an introvert. No! Do you know what your child is going through at home? Fear. Young people, is it making sense? Are your parents, you are like, here, I grew up in a home where I would never discuss dating issues with my dad. Never. I don't remember even once. It's just God's grace that I happened to fall in the right direction. But those days are gone, saints. And I know I'm preaching to Adventists who are African as well. So it's a taboo. Now we're talking of these things. But if you're not discussing them with your kids, someone is teaching them somewhere. Because of fear. Let's learn to love one another. Because of our time, let's quickly go into our lessons for this evening. Now the Hebrew boys, they tell the king, "Oh king, we can't even give you a reason. We're not even careful to give you an answer when it comes to worship." Oh, I wish Adventists were like the Hebrew boys this evening. You know, it's like they are saying, there are things we can debate, O king, but when it comes to worshiping our God, I don't care whether we are the president or the king of the powerful nation, we don't discuss issues of worship. The Hebrew boys understand what it means when we say forever, Yena. They are saying to the king, you think you are the one who sustains our life. When it comes to worship, even our life being at stake is not a motivation for us to bow down. And I'm here to remind you what it means to be a disciple of Christ. When young people are saying we want to follow him for no matter what, he is our forever, Yena, then it means we must be willing to say, even if we are thrown into the lake of fire, we will continue to worship him. But I like how this thing progresses in the book. The verse that we read, verse 14, begins by the king calling the boys first. Come and give an answer for what I'm hearing outside. Is it true that you guys are not bowing down when you hear the music? Still not sinking in. The devil will never stop to try and make you compromise. If at first it looks like he lost you, be rest assured he's gonna come again. Is it true that what I'm hearing, you guys don't want to bow down to my image? It's an offer of compromise. And I'm here to remind the young person, there's compromise everywhere. We are exposed to compromise from the minute we wake up to the minute we go back to bed. Am I talking to people who don't live life? Am I talking to people who don't go to varsity where there is millions of temptations all around from the minute you go in until the time you leave varsity? These guys are not tempted. Am I talking to young, to old people, even at work, where you go in and they are saying, no, we can just cook the books and fix this report. No one is gonna know, but you did not do the work. The devil will not stop to come and question the faith that you think you have in God. And the Hebrew boys are saying, we will not even give an answer. In this matter of worship, we know who we worship. Now, I was interested in the list of people that were called to this worship. It's like the entire government of Nebuchadnezzar is called. You can go and read at home. All the governors, even those who are leading different provinces, were called into this ceremony to worship this image. Now, these guys, maybe for them, it was a matter of the stomach. If we don't bow down to this image, maybe even our positions are at risk here. But some of us, we approach this issue of compromise and see, but if I don't compromise here, it's a matter of me losing my job. Hello, somebody? I'm afraid to be personal. We still have other days to finish this thing. If you were to go to your workplace and go through the work that you do, are we sure to find faithfulness in the work that you are doing at work? Or somewhere along the line there's compromise. Just because you are saying the saints don't say this, my boss is not going to say this, let me just compromise for the sake of my salary at the end. Young person, if you were to go to your books right now, do we find 100% faithfulness to your books? Or we see you at times compromising just so that you can pass in the end? Whether principle is compromised, it doesn't matter. I'm still not direct. We are just superficial. Lest some people are angry with me when we go out. But maybe let me talk to Adventists. Some of us, I know people have challenges, so I'm not saying this is not a challenge. But what are we doing with the challenge? Some of us don't even think twice when our bosses say, can you come in on Sabbath and just it's just going to be for a few hours. Just come in. I know you have to go to work. I will release you around 11 so that you don't miss the divine service. They know divine service. And you're like, if I don't come, maybe that promotion is not coming. Compromise. The Hebrew boys are saying, to be a disciple of Jesus Christ means not compromising. Let's wrap it up. People who follow God, no matter what, they understand that their allegiance matters more than their life. Allegiance to God matters more than their life. Now, why is that the case? Because they worship Him for who He is, not what He can do for them. The boys are indirectly saying, even if God does not save us from your hand, let it be known. We want it to be on record, even if we are gone and we are dead. But we want to die having left a record that says we died because we did not compromise. But people, the thing that you chose forever, Yena, means even if we die, let's leave a legacy that says we did not compromise. Now, I watched some videos, there was a funeral right now that happened of a pastor. And when I saw the preacher preaching about some of the stuff I had to cover, I'm like, okay, in the world of technology, I'm sure the saints have seen this. I'm going to come and preach it here. We are faced with that challenge. But let's talk about it nonetheless. Maybe let me steal the words of the preacher so that you can go and watch the video. It is dangerous and difficult to worship a God who is able but does not come through for you. Did you get that one? It is a challenge and a difficult thing to worship a God that you know is able, He has the power, but then you are still suffering. The boys are saying, we know our God is able to deliver us. And He will deliver us. That's the first statement they say there. He is going to deliver us from your hand. But, saints, some Adventists need to put that part in their lives. Because when things don't go the way they've prayed, then they think it's God who has failed them. But if we worship God who just is Father Christmas and just dishes out things after we've prayed, then God stops being God. For Him to remain God, we need to know that He is able to heal all diseases, but tomorrow we bury our loved ones because they've died. We need to say He is able to feed those who are hungry, but we go for years without jobs and we are suffering on this earth. We need to say, we know He is able to provide marriages, but we pray day in and day out, marriages don't come. But we don't say, but God has failed us. To choose God no matter what means we are allowing Him to be God in our lives. Since there's this trend that is not okay in the church, where we think our prayers are so powerful, our prayers, ours, are so powerful that they dictate what God must do. I'm not saying let's not pray. Prayer is powerful. God answers prayer. But God is also God. He knows more than we know. So when He decides not to act according to the prayers, let's not then quickly say God has failed. That's what it means to be a disciple. It means allowing God to be God in my life. Are we together? Maybe let's clear this one out. Some of us, when we joined Christianity, we thought this is the safe haven that we are coming to. I'm here to say this evening, wherever faith matters are concerned, be rest assured, fire is next door. And when the fires are burning us, why are we quick to say God has failed? The boys are saying, even if He does not save us, we want to leave it on record. We do not bow down. And I'm here to challenge us this evening. If we are serious about the thing that we have chosen, then let us be serious to say we want God to be God in our lives. Because if we are here to play, then let's close shop and go home. Maybe it happens to me, in closing. Maybe it happens to me. Have you ever prayed for something? For years praying for something, and then it does not happen. Now listen to the twist. And then a brother comes and asks you to pray for them, and then God answers their prayer. You know that pain? I used to be angry at that prayer. But now I always say, I just thank God that He answered that prayer. It is evidence that there is still a God in heaven for me. Whether He answers mine or not is no longer the issue. But I'm glad that God has answered the prayer. Because then it's a testimony to me that God is still alive. I'm here to say to us, maybe I'm going around in circles, but I'm here to tell us, let us allow God to be God in our lives. If we are saying forever, Yena, then let us mean it in our homes, at school, at work. Let us be sincere when we say, God, we want you to be God in our lives. Jesus showed us what it means to allow God to be God in our lives. He's in the garden of Gethsemane. He feels that the cup is too heavy. And then Christ says, if it's possible, let this cup what? Pass from me. We know the story? Oh, okay. It's just a ruling in Kruger's. We won't respond. That's fine. He says, let this cup pass from me. And he says, nevertheless, not mine, but that's what it means to be a disciple. It is to say, God, you are able to let this cup pass. But even if you don't let it pass, let your will prevail. The Lord bless us. Amen.
Forever Yena. I just want to try, sure. Forever Yena. Even if you're thrown in the fire. So before we continue with our program, I forgot, do we have any visitors today with us? If we do, may you please stand. So continue with our program. So we're going to gather into groups of two, and we're going to pray with that person for 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll share your prayer request with them.